The reading this morning is the story of Mary and Martha from the book of Luke, chapter 10, verses 38 to 42. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and said, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her."
Good morning, First UCC. So for my message today, I need the tiniest bit of audience participation. Don't be afraid. I think there are at least 3 people present today who just feel overwhelmed or anxious or exhausted. Could I see some hands? All I need are 3 names. Go call them out when I point to you. Mandy. Another. Amelia. What's that? Amelia. Another. Sarah. All right, names. Names are so simple and powerful things, you know. In less than a breath, with a few basic sounds, we communicate this rich understanding of another person, the tapestry of a relationship, of a life. And is there any sweeter sound than to hear your own name spoken in love? And is there any worse sound than to hear your own name spoken in judgment? This is a hard one to think about as a parent, because I so often find myself saying my son's name in this sharp tone that just means, do what I expect. We're establishing a tradition here. Okay, got it. So when Martha hears Jesus say her name, what does she hear, I wonder? The story of Martha and Mary hosting Jesus in their home is a fitting text for our theme this summer. That theme, of course, is rest. And rest is the one thing Martha does not have. She is under pressure and crying out for help. She is overwhelmed and worried about many things. And that description fits a lot of us today. Our modern world bombards us from every direction with its demands and with its judgments. The pressures of being a good citizen, a good activist, a good volunteer, a good neighbor, a good employee, a good family member. It's so much, it's exhausting. So Martha's story is fitting, but, and it needs to be called out here, the patriarchy in this story is palpable. This story has a history. Christian men have used this text for generations to control women. The feminist theologian Elizabeth Schussler-Fiorenza says that this text must be read through a lens of suspicion because it has so often been used, it has so often functioned to force women into Martha's shoes. So, there's another source of pressure, the pressures of gender, of our roles in society. So when Martha cries out to Jesus for her sister's help, we feel for her. She's trying to do her best and live up to all of these expectations, and then what? Jesus mansplains her job to her? Says she's doing it wrong, she should be more like her sister? I can't even. It's hard to read the story any other way, because we, like Martha, feel trapped. Every system of the world is conspiring to cage us. And the bars of the cage are made from these pressures and judgments. The cage of patriarchy wants us to perform our gender in a way that supports its social order. And when we fail, we are made to feel ashamed. Martha was trapped in a system that told her that she and Mary were responsible to do all of this work, even though there were 12 perfectly capable men standing around being useless. The cage of nationalism is always demanding our service. To be a good citizen, we have to fight to preserve our country from someone, and everything is always on the line. God bless Tim Walls, but he has actually been telling us from his pulpit that we'll rest when we're dead. Martha faced similar nationalist pressures. Her nation was Judea. She had to live up to its expectations of a pious Jewish household. She had to pick sides between the Pharisees, Sadducees, and Zealots. And that's to say nothing of the pressures imposed on her from the Roman occupiers of her land. And then the cage of capitalism demands our labor. It sells us a picture of success and then makes us pay to fail to reach it. If we're not economically contributing, we're called burdens to society. In our summer book, Rest is Resistance, Tricia Hersey calls this grind culture and connects it to slavery, both past and present. So, patriarchy, nationalism, capitalism, school, corporations, volunteer organizations, sports teams, every institution of life pressures us, judges us, and finds us lacking. Because they need us to grind for them if they are going to survive. So they promise us happiness, self-esteem, significance, if we would just do more, give more, live up to the potential that they can tap into. We feel trapped, but we sense the bars of this cage like an animal born in the zoo. We're pacing along the plexiglass. We don't always see it, but we know it's keeping us in, and we know there's another way to live, but how? I mean, this is the way the world is. So that's why Martha's story reads the way it does. When Jesus says, "Martha, Martha," we can't hear it any other way but more judgment, more pressure. Working so hard to be good enough is all we've ever known, and we are never good enough. We have never done enough. We feel trapped. But you know who isn't trapped? Mary. Mary has just as many pressures as Martha. She faces all the same patriarchy, all the same nationalist and economic demands. But Mary realizes she is not made for the grind. And Jesus recognizes that she has it figured out. In this moment, Mary is not worried or troubled, because in the presence of Jesus, in the family of God, she is loved and welcomed just as she is. Jesus points out Mary not to make Martha feel small, but to show Martha what is possible. Freedom from judgment, rest from the grind. This isn't a rebuke, it's a rescue. Can we hear it like this? Oh, Martha, Martha, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed. Indeed, only one. Mary has chosen something good that will never be taken away from her. Come, share in it. The one thing Martha deeply needs is right there. And Jesus invites her, invites you to opt out of all the pressures of the world and in to the presence of the Spirit of God. You have permission. This is not something you have to work for. You are loved not for what you do, but as you are. And who are you? In the family of God, we are finite, limited human beings. We are as fragile as sparrows, as exposed as the lilies of the field. We need bread and fish to eat. We need water to drink. We need day and night, activity and rest. God separates the day from the night, creates every living thing to sleep, sets aside the Sabbath, that's a lot of rest, and calls it very good. You are not made for the grind. You are made for a rhythm of reaching and rest. When we center our identity at the feet of Christ, we are released from the judgments of the world. Then, finally, the work that we do have to do is redeemed, rebalanced, because rest is now part of the rhythm. In the family of God, at the feet of Christ, we rest and receive. And then from that abundance, we serve and sacrifice, giving back to one another and especially to the poor, the lonely, and the stranger. And that will leave us tired. We will be depleted. We will be wounded. We are needy. But there's no shame in any of those things, because we are meant to return to the beloved community and the presence of God where we rest and receive again. There is joy in this rhythm. No matter where the melody takes us, to the heights of happiness or to the sloughs of sorrow, our ear is tuned to the rhythm of Jesus calling us in by name. Martha, 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 Martha. I invite you to imagine the Spirit of God calling your name in love. Mandy, 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 Mandy. Calling you away from all the pressures and judgments of the world. Amelia, 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 Amelia. Your needs are known. Your needs are welcome. You're not alone. Sarah, 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 Sarah. We are worried and upset about many things, but only a few things are needed. And those few are gathered here in the name of the one. Come, rest in the presence of the Spirit and the family of God. This will never be taken away from you.